Okay, hello. This week you are reading The Calvary Maiden, Journals of a Russian Officer in the Napoleonic Wars. What's remarkable about this memoir is it is written by an individual we've known her as Nadezhda Durova. That is her baptized name. But she went through much of her life being known as Alexander Andreevich Alexandrov. And Nadezhda Durova basically ran away, presented as a man, enrolled in the army, and served with honor and valor in the Russian Imperial Army for many years before retiring and living out her years presenting as a man. And this is a remarkable history. It's Durova's or Alexandrov's feats are documented, and she wrote about it herself, or he wrote about it himself in a memoir that ended up being published with the help of Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, one of the leading lights of the early 19th century. And it was, and it became a sensation. And so we're reading this like Labsina's reading, which you read last week. This is um, this is one of the earliest published memoirs of Russian, and we don't have too many of these. So these are people really kind of pioneers in a genre, so to speak, doing this thing that hasn't been done much. It starts to pick up as the 19th century goes on. There are more and more memoirs, but real, yeah, some real pioneering moves. And here by an individual that lived such an unusual life, very much bucking gender norms, um, and managing it. So I encourage you to, read Durova's story and try and get a real feel for her experience. And we will try and give you some opportunities to kind of reflect on your reading in upcoming work. I also want to make a note as you're reading this, go through and just note the geography of her places. So I would say, as in your notes, make a list of places that she mentions that she is. Pull up the geography, and I may give you an exercise asking you to say, where in the Russian Empire did this person exist? She's born in Poland. She first enrolls in a Polish regiment, and where else to her travels over the course of fighting in the Napoleonic Wars and the famous Battle of Borodino that Tolstoy made so famous in War and Peace, one of the most famous of Russian novels. Durova is there participating in it. So this is a unique life in the midst of what has become major moments in modern world history. All right, and that's all I'll say about that right now. Except also to, as you hear me talk about, as unique as this is, we also have the example of the very famous Count Pulaski, a Polish nobleman who fought in the Revolutionary War with George Washington. But when his skeleton was exhumed, it has been determined that this was the skeleton of a female. And so it's a fascinating case that starts to kind of almost raise a window a little bit into this portal into thinking about the experience of gender and people that don't fit into standard models and expectations of what a man is and what a woman is in the 19th and 18th centuries. Bye bye.